Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday Tea Time. This evening was slightly late due to technical problems, but we're here anyway. And myself, Matt Hooper, is joined by Les Bailey of Pro Golf Now. This week we'll be discussing Bubba Watson's win at the Northern Trust Open and whether we think he can go on and take his great play from the weekend into the majors. And we'll also be previewing the Accenture Match Play, a packed event. One of the best days of the golfing calendar, the first round, with 64 players go head-to-head. Lack of two or three quality players this year, which we'll be discussing as well. But we'll start with Bubba Watson, who claimed his fifth PGA Tour win at the weekend, first since the 2012 Masters. And it was an impressive display, wasn't it, Les?
It was. It almost looked like Bubba was on a mission after he lost the Phoenix Open there. I think he had a little case of the red ass, after that was over with, and
Yeah.
and was looking for some kind of clarification. I kept thinking he might hit a bad shot coming down the stretch there, but he never did. He just kept pounding it in there.
No, it was very impressive how he held it together, and his putting was fantastic down the stretch, and no bogeys over the weekend, 2 straight rounds of 64, and his shot making really was quite remarkable. And I think if he can, he's still backing off shots and looking in the crowd and looking at his caddy. If he could sort that out, he could really be one of the best. Well, he's one of the best, but he could be the best.
It kind of makes you wonder why he's good at like Ryder Cup and those kind of places, because I mean even at Phoenix, that's the Ryder Cup. People make noise, and he just constantly looking back and cussing people out, and it's like he needs to get over that.
Yeah, and if he could, I wrote a blog earlier this week to say that if he can sort his mind out and if he can concentrate and focus, he could be the very best golfer in the world, because he moves the ball dramatically from right to left, left to right. He's got a superb short game. He's powerful off the tee. He drives it monstrous distances. There's no golf course that he cannot win on. And it will be nice to see him now put a run together of consistent play. But I suppose you may not get that with Bubba.
Yeah, I question his dedication at times, because he doesn't take any instruction from anybody, doesn't take much advice from anybody, and quite frankly, there's just some golf courses that he's not going to play that way, especially the shorter, tighter courses that require a little bit more, accuracy off the tee, especially.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but and Riviera in many ways suits him much like Augusta does, where it forces you to have to move the ball dramatically left to right, right to left.
Right.
And an old style course. So I think that's the sort of course we may see him succeed on.
Well, in 2012, after he won the Masters, he went to Olympic Club for the U.S. Open, and he said the first day out of the hatch there that he said the golf course doesn't fit my eye, and and it didn't. He didn't play well,
No.
So.
No. And he certainly had a point to prove after the way he collapsed so badly in the final few holes at GPC Scottsdale. And yeah, he would have been playing on his mind, I think. But to birdie the last, he really rubber stamped his victory. He had just Dustin Johnson chasing him down as well, so it was a great win.
Well, I had even mentioned it in a blog after it was over with. The one thing that always impressed me about Jack Nicklaus during his career, I'm not sure, if you're old enough to remember when he played, but Nicklaus really loved to birdie the last hole. I mean, he just it didn't matter if he was losing by 15 strokes or winning by 15 strokes. He just loved to birdie that last hole. The 72nd hole was birdie for him, and to have Watson take the time and actually make that birdie just showed me something that was kind of special.
Yeah, it was certainly very very fitting to see him birdie that last hole and put a gap between himself and the rest, and and the weekend's play. I mean, he only just made the cut on 1 under par, and he shoots 14 under par at the weekend. It's absolutely phenomenal.
That'll win a lot of golf tournaments. Now, 64-64 on Saturday and Sunday should win some golf tournaments.
Yeah, very much so. And he comes into this week match play. Obviously, he's played in 2 Ryder Cups now, a couple of Presidents' Cups. Where do we think? I mean, it's very difficult to say with Bubba because he could turn up one week and not be at the races. But do you think he will be feared by quite a few opponents? I would say.
Well, I was just looking at his draw. He's in the Sam Snead division, and he draws Mikko Ilonen from Finland out of the first round, and he does have Keegan Bradley and Jonas Blix to get by. One of those two, whoever wins that match. And then he's got Dustin in the same bracket. So
yeah.
Before he can get to the semifinals, he's got to get through Dustin Johnson. Peter Hansen's playing pretty well. Victor Dubuisson is a golfer that they need to watch out for, but he's got some game.
Yeah, very
so.
I can't. It's an amazing potential matchup between Dustin and Bubba. I think that could be. It's a shame they're not in separate parts of the draw, and that would be a wonderful final.
Well, they've also got Hunter Mahan in that division, so and Graham McDowell. So there's some pretty good match play golfers in that Sam Snead division. So.
Yeah, there is very much so. Obviously, this week we're missing Tiger Woods, the top seed, Phil Mickelson, Adam Scott, 3 of the top 4 players in the world. Have decided for one reason or another not to play in this tournament, and it's something which I think, frankly, should be unacceptable. They should be playing in this tournament. I know Ewan Murray, who will be part of the commentary team for Sky this week, he thinks that players who don't play in WGCs should be actually docked double points on the world rankings because these top events were formed for the very players that are playing in them. They're there for the best to play against the best, and so often now the best are turning down to play in them.
Well, it goes back to it's a horrible place to play that time of year. You saw what we got last year. We got a snowstorm on Thursday, and we had gale force winds on Sunday during the finale, and they just need to. In fact, I heard on I was watching Morning Drive this morning, and they were talking about possibly moving that, moving it someplace else. If they're gonna continue to have it in February, okay.
Yeah. Well, I heard that it's going to be moved to Harding Park from next year.
That's what I heard, and I thought, well, it's too bad because I think Jack Nicklaus actually designed Dove Mountain for that particular venue. I mean, it's a really nice venue for it. It's just the wrong time of year, It's still wintertime in that part of the world, and they're up, pretty high in altitude, so you're going to get winter storms there this time of year.
Yeah, and maybe they should move it out of America altogether. I think that's another option. You've got 2 World Match Play Championships. Well, I don't see the point in that, and you could actually merge the 2, and you've got with the Volvo event, you've got a group stage where the 16 players play 3 matches, so they're there for 3 days, and then the group winners or whatever go through to the weekend. And I think the Accenture would benefit from that. And
yeah,
change
that's the other thing that I don't like about the tournament. I mean, I love match play golf. It's one of my favorites. But when you got the top player who gets eliminated in the first round and he's gone, that can't be good for TV ratings.
No, it's not. It's not good for the sponsor. It's not good for spectators because with a golf tournament being from Wednesday to Sunday, there may be a lot of spectators that can only attend on a Thursday, Friday, and they miss most of the best players in the world, which is inevitable when you've got a knockout situation where any player can win.
It's in fact I wrote it in my blog this morning that it's March Madness basketball being played on the golf course.
Yeah.
You win, you're in. You lose, you go home. That's it. And last year, you had to think with the 40-mile-an-hour winds and just the conditions on Dove Mountain on Sunday, that most of the guys that didn't make it to the finale were sitting in South Beach sipping their Mai Tais and watching it on TV like the rest of us were, and probably very happy that they were doing so.
Yeah, very much so. But we've got some interesting matches potentially in the second round. Lee Westwood could play Rory McIlroy. Keegan Bradley could play Bubba Watson. An intriguing matchup potentially between Sergio Garcia and Miguel Angel Jimenez. That would be quite interesting to see. I think
Yeah.
the old guy would fancy his chances, I would say. Stenson and Newstason could play each other. It's an exciting weekend, and hopefully this time the top players actually get all the way through to the weekend, and we have a really good finish.
Well, at least you would expect at least 20-25% of them to get at least to the weekend.
Yeah.
It's disappointing if they don't, and you're left with the. And I love to watch some of these guys play. I'm a big fan of the European Tour golf, but there's just some guys that most people don't know about that are really good golfers. They're here for the tournament, but for a Sunday draw, they're not going to be not going to pull in a TV audience in the U.S.
No, and I think unfortunately, the fact that you've got Mickelson missing, he's done this for a few years now. He's taken his kids on holiday, which is fair enough. These guys need their time off, but then that is unfortunate for such a big event. No Adam Scott. You really need to look at the format, look at the venue. You can't have a WGC missing 3 of the top 4 players in the world. That's not right. Because it's not achieving what they were designed to achieve.
Well, one of the factors that I'm going to bring up here is in the U.S., there's a lot of people that don't like match play golf. They want to see medal play every week, and it's not as big as it is in Europe.
No.
And I think that hurts it here. It's too bad that on the golf community, there's a lot of people there that say they like match play, and I'm sure they do, but there's got to be a lot of people that just they look at they don't understand the scoring, they don't understand what's going on, so they just push on to the stock car race or basketball or something else.
Yeah, it is probably a cultural thing. You would say that match play is more popular in Europe, in Australia. And that's why, to me, I mean, when the WGCs were formed, you had a World Match Play Championship that had 50 years of history, and it wasn't included in the WGCs. And that's what I don't understand, because it had a great venue in Wentworth. It had stunning history with almost every great player of the last 50 years winning it, or at least getting to the final. And it always generated a good field, and you had a gallery of spectators that really understood match play. They play it as a regular thing in their clubs, whereas in America, I think I'm right in saying that you play more medal play or scramble games rather than match play.
Yeah. Most tournaments of a light nature are always scrambles. They have been for the last 25 years. And, it takes the pressure off of having a tee shot and out of your group of 4, somebody's going to get it in the fairway, So people, back in the days when the U.S. was dominating the Ryder Cup, there were a lot of people around that understood match play in those days. And today, that's why we don't do well in the Ryder Cup, because our society and our culture doesn't lend itself to that kind of play anymore. It's everybody for himself nowadays, and they don't really quite understand the team concept.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, and that's why the tournament needs, as much as it's going to be a great event again. I'm very much a fan of the 36-hole final. I think playing a match play final over 18 holes is like playing a stroke play event over 54 holes. It's not satisfactory. It feels like you need some more.
Yeah.
So I would say that the 36-hole final should return. It gives the best players in the world, once they get to the final, 2 rounds. It's good for television. It's something which I would bring back. And as I say, I think a group stage would be a very good addition, where you'd have all 64 players playing for 3 days, and then we'll see who the best players are. You're less likely to get a 64th seed getting through to the weekend, just because they might win 1 match unexpectedly, but they're not going to win 2 or 3. So I think that's what needs to happen.
Well, the first step is to get the venue right, get it someplace that has good weather, and either that or get it into the right time of year.
Yeah.
I think that's the first big step. They got to solve that problem first, and then they can work on the format.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the venue is imperative. So, I mean, we've still got 64 great players playing this week. Who do we think is going to come out on top?
Well, I was analyzing Matt Kuchar this morning on a blog because he's the defending champion, and he's a 2 seed in the Gary Player division, and he's got doesn't have a lot of competition in the first 2 rounds. He may have to tackle Jordan Spieth, and Oos Luton can play golf now.
Yeah.
And he's got Francisco Molinari to deal with. But when he gets in, a little further down the road, he's going to have Justin Rose and Jason Duffner and Ernie Els, and some possibility of some pretty good players there that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, very much. I think Kuchar probably gets so far, but it's very hard to defend this title. The number of matches you need to play. So I think he's probably a contender, but I don't think personally he'll get the job done. I have to say I like the look of Rory McIlroy. I think that although he's not done so well in this event recently, I think he's playing well, and he played well in the desert in the Middle East. There's no reason he can't come there and do well. But I think Bubba Watson is the guy. I think he's the man.
You think he's the man that's gonna do it, huh?
I do. I think he's riding on the crest of a wave. You think?
Well,
he fouled up at Scottsdale, but I think he's there.
You think he's got the talent to win a match play event?
Yeah, very much so. I do.
I'm really curious about how Jimmy Walker does. The FedEx Cup leader is got a fairly. I mean, he's got Brandon Grace, who's no pushover in the first round, but he's got Ian Poulter in that group. So if he wants to get up the road, he's going to have to get past Ian Poulter.
Yeah.
And that can be I mean, we all know what happens to him when it comes to match play. All of a sudden, I think the cup looks like a gallon bucket, and and the man turns into a monster.
Yeah.
But McIlroy's also in that division. Schwartzel, that's the Ben Hogan division, and you got Garcia, of course, in there, and Mark Leishman can play some match play golf.
Yeah, I think it is pretty wide open, but I mean, there's some great potential matches, really close matches, exciting contrasts of styles. I think it's going to be a fantastic tournament, actually, even though we don't have Tiger Woods and Nicholson and Scott. But yeah, I think the potential semi-finals of McIlroy, Stenson, and Justin Rose, Bubba Watson. That would be pretty satisfactory, I think.
Yeah, Oosthuizen is a pretty good match play golfer, and unfortunately he's got Stenson in the first group.
Yeah. So, Stenson's changed equipment. I heard this on Sky last week that he's changed equipment. which is surprising considering the great year he had. He's almost
Yeah,
a Rory.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So
I think Rory had more than just equipment problems. I think he
yeah,
was
yeah,
dealing with
sure.
girlfriend problem issues and things like that. So hopefully Stenson with a wife and kids is not going to have that issue to deal with.
Yeah,
Another guy in that division to watch out for is Jason Day is over there. He was in the semifinals last year with Ian Poulter, and you've got Webb Simpson that plays pretty good in this tournament, and of course Stricker. Has, don't expect Stricker to come in with a lot of rust on him because it seems like the guy can just appear out of nowhere and finish second.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
definitely got the game, and he's a good match play golfer. So
Well, he's reached the final of this tournament. In fact, he's won it this tournament, hasn't he? He
yeah,
won
he's
it
won
in
this tournament.
2001 in Australia.
Yeah,
He's one of the many players that took advantage of most of the top players not getting up
not showing up.
going. um, but yeah, no, it's wide open, and Stricker could be a dark horse because obviously he's not played in quite a while, and he was not expected to be playing in the event.
Right.
Sort of last minute sort of entry, so he could certainly the potential to play Stanson in the quarterfinals, I think it is.
Uh,
So could be a good week for him.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I was going through the names today. The only three major players that are missing are Tiger, Phil, and Adam Scott.
Yeah.
Was there
yeah.
somebody else that because they pulled in down to the 68th position? I thought there was somebody else, another top player that opted out, but I can't remember who it was.
I think they went down to 67 because they were going to go down to 68, but Stricker entered at the last.
Oh, that's
minute.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, okay,
That's
it'd be great if Phil Mickelson and Adam Scott, and Adam Scott's taken quite a bit of time off after his long run over the winter, which is probably understandable. But if Mickelson and Woods were there, it'd be a fantastic tournament. But it's going to be a great week anyway, I think.
Well, this is the first week of that actually I think starts the golf season. The Europeans are back. The top players are back. When we get to Florida, it's all gung ho until we get to the Masters. So
yeah,
there's some good golf coming.
The start of the countdown to the Augusta, really.
Yeah, this is when golf starts getting really good. The players that were flourishing back in the flip flop season and the early part of the season here. Is probably a good thing they've won what they've won because winning more is going to be tough from here out.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, we can't go through tonight without talking about the most famous tree in golf.
Yes,
the Eisenhower tree is no more. I don't know what they're probably going to just buy a tree from some other place and replace it like for like, I would imagine, but. They can't really not have a tree there, can they? It defines the whole. So.
It's been that way. What? It's 1952 they put that tree in there, or maybe it was a little bit later. I know they had a special meeting back in the day, and because Ike wanted the tree moved, he didn't like it being there because he liked to take that shortcut, And he was on the executive committee there at Augusta, and he almost got it pulled out of there, but they adjourned the meeting before he had a chance to vote. I read the story about it one time. It was really funny, but it's too bad. They had some pretty bad weather come through there this last week, and in fact the Weather Channel was down there broadcasting, and they were talking about the possibility of losing trees and stuff.
Yeah, and I think the ones on Magnolia Lane survived, but they've had bad weather. But obviously the Masters is not too far away now. We've got the Florida Swing coming up next week, the Honda Classic with the top 8 players in the world playing. The best field it's ever had. Then we've got the Cadillac Championship at the revamped Doral Resort. Donald Trump with his new design. And then we've obviously got Tampa Bay, and then on to Bay Hill, and then 2 events in Texas. before the Masters. So this
Yeah,
this is the start of the countdown.
the Texas swing is going back to the way it's supposed to be, with the Valero being first and then the Shell
Yeah.
Houston Open being the week before the Masters. I mean, it was flip flop last year, I think, because of the President's Cup. The somehow the President's Cup flop made it, because weeks change every year. So
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
that was the reason that they had changed it.
It'll be good to have that back how it is, because you've
Yeah.
got a course that's set up to prepare the players for Augusta. So, but that's in the future. It's going to be a super week this week. I'm going for Bubba Watson. You're going for Kuchar, I think you said.
No, I don't.
No?
In fact, in my blog, I didn't I didn't think Kuchar would survive this year the way he did last year. Although, speaking of Kuchar, he missed the cut at Riviera last week, and it was the first cut he had missed since the PGA Championship of 2012.
Wow, that must be the longest active streak.
And I'm thinking, I wrote in my blog, I said, he just must have had a bad day, because he doesn't play that. He doesn't miss cuts.
No, he doesn't. He's a solid
He's not
player.
spectacular, but he's very consistent. I don't know. I'm really anxious to see how this turns out. I don't think McIlroy is a great match play player, so I'm staying away from him for a pick. I like Stenson. If Stenson gets there with his new clubs, and I know he's been looking a little rusty, but I think he's ready probably to get back to the U.S. and start winning some money again.
Yeah. Well, he's past champion. He's won, I think it was the Gallery course, which is just over the road from Dove Mountain. So I think, well, he's a good shout, and if he can get his game going like it was at the end of last year, then he should get to the final, really. But match play is unpredictable. So.
Well, I'll tell you another guy that's the number one seed in the Sam Snead division is Zach Johnson, and Zach Johnson is tough right now. So he's had a couple of weeks off, but if he comes back the way he left, he's going to be tough. He's about as good as a one-on-one player as you'll find.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and there's potential second round matchup with Hunter Mahan, which that one was very close, very intriguing matchup, because Hunter Mahan, he's won it. He got to the final last year. There's form there, and he's sort of going under the radar. You never know. He did well at Scottsdale a couple of weeks ago, so he has form in the Arizona desert. Might bring some good vibes back. So he could be an outside bet.
Yeah, and he's definitely got the pedigree for match play.
Yeah, very much so. So it's going to be a fantastic week. 64 of the top 67 players in the world playing the first World Golf Championship of the year. Next week, hopefully we'll have our full quota of panelists back, with Elizabeth and John joining us, and we'll be previewing the Honda Classic and the Florida Swing, and looking back at the WGC Accenture match play. Do you have anything else to add, Liz? Or?
No, I'm pretty good right now. I think we covered just about everything that we didn't get a chance to talk LPGA because Elizabeth wasn't here, but I wasn't real happy because I belong to the Ladies Dream Golf League, which is a fantasy league, and I had Suzanne Pedersen, and she shot 80 on Sunday. It just dumped me all the way to the bottom of that. I wasn't happy at all. I was crowing about how I was going to win, how many points I was going to win, and then she went and shot 80 on Sunday and just took me clean out of the whole thing.
Well,
they go on to Thailand this week, and
yeah,
that's usually a fairly good tournament to watch. What is the HSP ISPS Handa?
Yeah.
Is that the event? Yeah.
And then you've got the HSBC Women's Champions coming up. I think it's in Singapore in a couple of weeks' time. So they've got an Asian swing now through until I think it's the Kia Classic at Carlsbad, and then obviously the first major of the year, the Kraft Nabisco.
Well, I think
So-
the Donnelly Cup is when they come back. When they actually come back to the U.S., isn't it? The R.R. Donnelly Cup, Founders Cup. I mean,
Well, from myself and Les, that is good night for now, and we'll see you next week with the preview of the Honda Classic and a review of the Extenso match. Bye.
all right. Cheers. Have a good day.